So I just did my video on 28 Years Later, and I was overall pretty happy with that movie as a legacy sequel. Left me a little disappointed with the ending, but the one thing that I had my biggest issue with in that movie, without spoiling anything for the people who still haven't seen it, I felt that the infected in 28 Years Later got increasingly less scary and threatening as the film went on. And by the time you got to the end, they were almost making a mockery of the infected, as I'm sure you've heard by now. And so, because of that, I wanted to go back and talk about the original film because 28 Days Later gets everything right. I mean, it's basically a perfect horror movie. This is a horror movie that sets you up with some of the most ethical and effective scares I've ever seen. There are no fake outs or silly jump scares that, they just solely exist to play that loud noise and get you to jump out of your seat. They're doing nothing of that. If something loud is happening in 28 Days Later, it's because something terrifying is on screen and it is posing an actual threat to the characters. The infected in 28 Days are some of the most relentless and savage we've ever seen before and since its release. This has to be one of the worst case horror movie situations you could find yourself in because right away, this movie starts off and shows you that it's not playing around, right? We see that the rage virus is incredibly transmissible in that opening. It's so good because we see that all it takes is a little drop of blood or saliva to become infected, and within 10 seconds, just like that, you go from being a completely normal PETA person who thinks that you're saving the monkeys to all of a sudden you're a feral raging beast and London is falling apart. So that's what's so scary to me about The Infected. One of the main reasons why I say this is the scariest zombie movie of all time, if not one of the scariest horror movies ever, is just how quickly the zombies work in this movie. And that's what's so scary, right? Because, listen, I'm not breaking any new ground here, but just that thought process, that simple idea of what if zombies were fast? It's just perfection. It's so well done. This is such a natural evolution of the zombie genre, but someone had to do it. Someone had to be the first ones to make fast zombies and to perfect it. So 28 Days Later does that. Right off the bat, the intro makes it obvious that this virus is going to be a problem. This is going to cause some really big problems. But then we get the following scenes, which again are just perfect, of Cillian Murphy waking up and walking around these empty London streets. It's such a brilliant and jaw-dropping way to set the tone for this movie because these scenes create so much atmosphere and it's just surreal to see how all of society has collapsed in such little time. I've seen some reviews and tweets that say that 28 Days hasn't aged that well because of the camera that it was filmed on, but honestly, to me, I loved it. I thought the low resolution footage actually gives you this grimy and nasty feel to it that, in my opinion, makes the movie a lot better, right? The way that it's filmed puts you into Cillian Murphy's shoes when he wakes up because it feels like you're in a daze. It feels so disconnected from reality that I thought it worked perfectly. The opening shots of London go so far to set the stage for this movie. And then you get that first encounter with the infected, right? Starting in that church full of the dead bodies, he walks in, and it's legitimately one of the best scenes in horror movie history. This is such a freaky ass moment where the bodies, just a couple of them, lift up and look at Cillian Murphy, and it's like, dude, you got to get the hell out of there. It's one of the greatest set pieces I've ever seen, and it's only one of a number of great set pieces in this film. We get the amazing sequence in the tunnel when they're trying to repair the car tire and you just see all the infected shadows running towards them. It's really a cheat code in horror, right? If you have anything in the background running towards the characters, that's going to feel intense 10 out of 10 times, and it's done perfectly with the silhouettes. We also get the chase scene on the stairs in the apartment building where you hear the infected rampaging up towards them. This movie does such a good job of building tension because the infected, they're a constant threat, right? Like throughout the first act, you never feel like the characters aren't on the run or they aren't actively being hunted in this movie. And a big part of that is what I mentioned at the beginning, the jump scares, right? I already alluded to this, but the jump scares in this movie are some of the most effective scares that I can remember in the zombie genre because every time you think the characters are in a safe place, you are rudely awakened by the fact that these infected are not sleeping. They're not taking any days off. They are still on the hunt looking for you. On that first night, we get the POV of the infected that just charges through the window and takes you by surprise. And when you watch this for the first time, yes, you do get that POV of the infected coming towards the window, but you don't really have enough time to process or keep up with what you're seeing, right? You kind of think, okay, is this the infected POV? But then before you really have time to process it, that infected's crashing through the window and it's just pure chaos. And again, even just the blood spraying from the zombie when you slice it and it gets into your mouth, that's enough to cause instant infection. And so things happen so quickly in the opening of this movie, it doesn't give you a chance to exhale. And that's because the world of 28 Days Later is cruel and unforgiving. We get this reinforced over and over again. Maybe nothing is more cruel, unforgiving, and upsetting as Frank's death, right? All he does is look up at the wrong time and boom, that drop of blood gets him. Just like that, it's all over. It's such an unfair and frustrating way for a character to go out, but it just reminds you of how dangerous this world has become and how there's always a threat somewhere, even if you don't realize it. But anyways, yeah, look, I remember watching this movie as a kid, right? And I was scared because I was just a kid, but now I had the opportunity to go see this movie in theaters for the first time about a month ago as an adult, and it confirmed to me that 28 Days Later is still the scariest zombie movie of all time, in my opinion. The Rage virus is second to none in terms of how deadly it is if it existed, right? This is a doomsday scenario. I understand that because of how quickly it acts, that would limit how far it could spread. But hey, man, if you're in the infection zone, you're screwed, right? Like, it's something about these zombies. Not only are they trying to eat me, but they are just fueled with this insane level of rage. It's just, I said this in my 28 Years Later review, but it's just this primal fear inside of me that makes me like, I would not survive this one, okay? I could maybe handle the slow, shambling zombies from other apocalypse movies, but if you put me in 28 Days Later, I'm not cut out for this. I'm going out like Cillian Murphy's parents in this movie because there's just no way that I'm making it through this. And so the premise for this movie, right? You have a guy who wakes up in the hospital. He was in the hospital for a month with a coma, and he goes outside and the world has just ended. It was already set up for success, right? That's such a banger idea that if as long as you put it in the right hands, this movie was never going to fail. But then you pair that concept with these fast, crazy, infected types that are, I know they're technically not zombies. Listen, if I call them zombies, you get what I'm saying, right? But you package all that together behind some great cinematography, this gritty, low resolution camera footage, and honestly, some pretty awesome performances for such a low budget horror film from 2002. You put all that together, you have an all-time great on your hands, right? And the final thing that I want to talk about in this movie is this movie does the heavy lifting in terms of making characters that you care about, people that you're rooting for. They feel like actual human beings. And this movie is filled with enough story and depth that it's elevated from being just a generic zombie movie, right? There's so much happening in this movie in regards to its commentary on humanity and how we treat each other. As a kid, when I watched this movie, that final act and a lot of the commentary was confusing to me because I didn't really understand what was happening or what the filmmakers were trying to say. But on my rewatch as an adult, it's such a great way, that third act, to shift the focus from the infected to the brutality of humans, right? Like it makes so much more sense to me now as an adult. I especially love at the end when Killian's character Jim is, he's attacking the military base and kind of causing chaos. And throughout that entire run, he is being filmed just like the infected were being filmed previously, right? Like he's in the background, he's all blurry, there's choppy editing of him just kind of frantically running around, and they drive this point home in that final moment when Selena is about to kill him because she thinks he's one of the infected, and it takes her a second to realize. And so the message itself on this is pretty on the nose, right? Like you can argue maybe that it's even surface level, but I think it's incredibly well done. I think it's very effective to me. And again, something as simple as that, when it's done this well, elevates 28 Days from just being another zombie movie to something that has absolutely stood the test of time. So have you rewatched 28 Days Later recently? If you have, leave a comment. Tell me which scene scared you the most or what your favorite part of the movie is. Have you had a different reaction to it now that you've seen it as someone who maybe has grown up just like me? Please consider hitting that subscribe button and leave a like if you enjoyed my review. My full review of 28 Years Later is also available now if you want to check that out. So thank you, and I'll have more videos coming soon.